School's back in session. It's that time of the year, and it's not looking the way it looked in 2019, right? A lot of kids are having to do distance learning due to the whole COVID-19 risks that are going on. And this is placing a lot of parents, especially those in law enforcement, policing, first responders, in a jam as they try to juggle their work schedules and being home for their kids' education. So if this is you, or if you know anyone going through this issue, then today's video is going to be extremely important as we cover the Family First Coronavirus Response Act and how it affects leave balances. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to today's video. As always, I'm Xavier. This is Cadet Rookie Cop. Before we get into it today, please take the time, hit that like button, subscribe, click the notification bell, leave a comment. It really helps the channel out. We're trying to grow so we can continue to put out quality information for people in law enforcement. All right, appreciate it. So, jumping right into it today. I'm pretty sure by this point, everyone's heard of the CARES Act. And I'm also equally sure that not as many people are familiar with the Family First Coronavirus Response Act as it applies to employee leave balances. All right, this is some really important information I want to put out there just because school's starting back, and I know a lot of people are having to take time off from work and try to juggle all these things as their kids learning from home. So, what is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act? Basically, in a nutshell, what it is a law that was passed at the federal level to amend the CARES Act, right? And basically what it requires is that certain qualified employers have to allow certain qualified employees additional leaves for family and injury, sickness as it relates to COVID-19. This new Coronavirus Act is monitored and enforced by the Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division. As of right now, 2020, this emergency leave stipulation will be in effect until December 31st of 2020. That means you have to use up this benefit before December 31st of 2020. So, here's a few benefits of this act if you work for an eligible employer. And just FYI, if you're a police officer or a first responder of any kind, then more than likely you qualify to utilize this benefit. So the first thing that this act allows you to do is that the employee gets 80 hours of paid sick time if they are unable to work due to some type of COVID-19 related incident at their regular rate of pay. So if you have to be quarantined, take off from work, or anything like that, you get 80 hours of leave for that situation. So the second aspect of this act is where it really begins to apply to first responders, law enforcement, or anyone who works for a government that has a kid who is currently learning from home, doing distance learning because their school isn't allowing them to come to class because they're trying to work on social distancing as a result of COVID-19. So what this second part states is that a qualified employee who has a bona fide reason to provide care for someone in their family, immediate family who is sick, or that their child care, in this instance school, right, is affected by COVID-19 restrictions or anything going on with COVID-19, then they too are eligible for up to 80 hours of basically emergency leave at 2/3 of their regular pay rate to go ahead and handle those situations. A key aspect of this second part is that if you're trying to claim this benefit for a child, then the child must be under the age of 18 and their child care facilities, whether that's a school, private school, daycare, whatever, must be closed or have restrictions in place that prevent them from going there due to COVID-19, which is exactly what we're seeing going on right now at a lot of schools across the country. Lastly, and this is probably the craziest part, but can really be beneficial, especially for this first semester of school going into Christmas. The last part of this act states that after that 80 hours is used up, a qualified employee can be entitled to an additional 10 weeks of emergency family leave as long as they've been an employee for at least 30 days. So as long as you've been working with your current employer for a month or more, then you're eligible to use this additional 10-week benefit at 2/3 their regular rate of pay if they have a bona fide need or reason to provide child care for their child because their child care provider is shut down or under restrictions due to COVID-19. So, next part. Which employees are covered under this Families First Coronavirus Response Act? Like I said in the beginning of the video, if you are a first responder of any kind, whether that's police, fire, EMS, corrections, whatever, then by default, you're going to qualify for this because cities, counties, and states pretty much meet the qualifications for this bill. But going directly from the verbiage that is listed on the actual act itself, it states that the paid sick leave and leave time is available to qualified public employers and some private employers as long as they have fewer than 500 employees. Quick caveat to this bill. It states that if you are a federal employee, meaning that you work directly for the federal government and not on a municipal, county, or state level, then many of the positions at the federal level are covered under something called Title II. And if your position falls under a Title II coverage, then you will not be eligible to use the benefits associated with the FFCRA. Another quick note about the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. For my viewership out there that aren't currently working for a government entity and who are maybe working for a small business, there is an allowance in this act that allows for small businesses who have fewer than 50 employees to not honor the leave that is in this act if doing so will place the operational capability of the business at risk. So basically what they're just trying to do is ensure that if you're a small company, right, maybe only 20 employees, if a substantial enough number of your employees take this leave, it would essentially cripple the business and it would go under. So they put this little caveat in there to make sure that small businesses can still stay afloat. So how do you know if you're eligible as an employee? Especially talking to my officers, how do you know? Pretty much, as long as you're working for an eligible employer, then right off the bat, you are eligible for at least 80-hour 2-week benefit that I was talking about earlier. Again, if you want that additional 10 weeks, you have to have at least been working for your employer for 30 days. So, what are some of the qualifying reasons that you can present to your supervisor, your chain of command, or your HR department to show that you indeed qualify to use this leave benefit from the act? So under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, an employee is eligible to use the leave benefit if the employee is unable to work and needs to utilize leave because 1, they are subject to a federal, state, or local quarantine as related to a COVID-19 exposure or positive test reading. 2, the employee has been advised by a private healthcare provider, so like their doctor, that they should quarantine as a result of a potential COVID-19 exposure, symptoms, or positive test. 3, the employee is eligible to use the leave benefit if they themselves are experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and they're seeking to get a diagnosis. 4, an employee is eligible to use the leave benefit if they are caring for someone in their immediate family, in their immediate household, who meets the definition of number 2. So they are either experiencing COVID-19 symptoms or have tested positive and are required to be quarantined and need care and help to like get things like food or if they're just really under the weather, then you also qualify to use this benefit. 5, and I know this is the one everyone's been waiting on. This is the whole purpose of the video, right? And this is the most applicable to what's going on right now, especially as first responder parents are having to deal with this whole distance learning thing. Number 5 states that an employee is also eligible to use this benefit if their child's school or child care facility is closed, or the child care provider is unavailable due to a COVID-19 related reason. And basically that applies to every school right now across America that is utilizing distance learning to promote social distancing and stop the spread of COVID-19. And lastly, number 6, an employee is eligible to use this leave benefit if they are experiencing any substantially similar condition as detailed by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. So, what I really want you guys to focus in on is reason number 5, that child care or the child's school. So, under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, if your child's school is closed or they are unable to go, or it's affected due to a COVID-19 related reason, then you are able to utilize not only that 80 hours, but also that additional 10 weeks of leave so that you can be there at home. You don't have to stress and you don't have to run down your leave balance to pretty much zero or worry about calling your mom from here or your grandma or pulling from all these different places. You can take this leave and it does not come off of your leave balance. So, straight from the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, I'm going to read it directly from there. It states, for reason 5, which again, like I said, is childcare, a full-time employee is eligible for up to 12 weeks of leave, 2 weeks of paid sick leave, followed by up to 10 weeks of paid expanded family and medical leave at 40 hours a week. And a part-time employee is eligible for leave for the number of hours that the employee is normally scheduled to work over that period. Now, a big concern that I know what you're probably thinking is like, I heard him say a few times that it's going to be at 2/3 of my normal rate of pay. Now, that is only what it says from the federal level. This is the federal mandate of the act, right? This is the act that all public employers have to follow. Now, where I work, for the department that I work in, the city that I work, they've chosen to take the act one step further. And so basically what they stated was they acknowledge all the requirements of the Response Act, and they're going to cover that last 1/3 of my pay so that anyone who's using this leave benefit gets 100% of their pay for over the time that they're using it. So I highly encourage you to ask your supervisors about this, run it through your chain of command, and talk to your human resources department to see if your city, county, state, wherever you work, is also acknowledging this act in that way. Now, when I say acknowledging, that doesn't mean whether or not they're going to let you do it. No matter what, a qualified employer has to let you take this leave. The only thing that I'm saying is that if they're honoring it, meaning that they're going to cover that last 1/3 of your pay that would be taken out of your paycheck should you use that expanded 10-week benefit for the reason of childcare. So that's everything for the day. I left a link in the subscription to the full Families First Coronavirus Response Act. I highly suggest that you click it, you take the time and read the whole thing through. I by no means went into a in-depth, detailed description of everything that this act covers. I just hit the high points so I can make you guys aware of it, because I know that there's a lot of people out there right now who are going through it, who are cutting into their leave balances as their children are at home doing distance learning. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell, leave a comment, share it on social media, You know it's the same spill every time, but it really helps the channel out. Again, I'm Xavier, CRC. Stay blessed, and I'll see you guys on the next one.